22 months ago, Britain handed Keir Starmer one of the biggest parliamentary majorities in living memory.
I have just returned from Buckingham Palace, where I accepted an invitation from His Majesty the King to form the next government of this great nation.
Today, he's the most unpopular British Prime Minister on record. But here's the thing, the real story isn't about him, it's about a number. If Britain had grown after 2008 the way it grew before 2008, the average British worker would be earning around £52,000 today, and they simply aren't. In fact, they're earning roughly 31% less whilst paying record rents and watching house prices stay completely out of reach. Almost everything broken in British politics right now flows from that one ugly fact. And the sad truth is that replacing this Prime Minister won't fix any of it. Let's face it, 22 months is a short time to lose a country. In July 2024, after 14 years of Conservative government and 5 Prime Ministers in 8 years, British voters handed Labour 411 of 650 seats in Parliament, the biggest mandate in a generation. And the message they were buying was a single word, plastered on every podium, every leaflet, every backdrop in the country: change. But what happened next was a sprint of the wrong kind. Starmer promised he wouldn't raise taxes on working people. Yet today, Britain has the fastest rising tax burden on wages in the rich world. He then also pledged to build 1.5 million homes. Yet new home approvals last year ran at about 26% below his own target. He said he'd stop small boat crossings off the channel. Roughly 65,000 people have crossed since he took office. Then in September 2025, his Deputy Prime Minister resigned after underpaying £40,000 of stamp duty on a flat in Hove. The same week, his ambassador to Washington was sacked after the US Department of Justice released files confirming exactly how close he'd been to Jeffrey Epstein. By February, the same ambassador had been arrested by the Met on suspicion of misconduct in the public office. Starmer's net favourability now sits around -45. 2/3 of the country says Britain is heading in the wrong direction. His own MPs are openly discussing who replaces him. That's the surface story. It's the one the British press has been telling, in 10-day cycles, for almost a year now. However, the deeper story is older, and it's the one nobody in British politics actually knows how to fix. You see, in 2008, the global financial crisis broke the trajectory of British growth. That sentence is doing a lot of work, so let's unpack it. The Office of Budget Responsibility ran the numbers on what would have happened if pre-2008 productivity had simply continued. The answer? Average real income today would be around £52,000 a year. The actual number is about 31% lower than that. A whole generation of British workers has lived inside that gap, and the place they felt it the most isn't the news, it's at home. Average UK house prices now sit at roughly 9 times the average earnings. In London, closer to 12. Private rents have risen faster than wages for most of the last decade. And the biggest single line item in most working households is the cost of having a roof over their head. And that cost has been quietly eating whatever wage growth the country managed to scrape together. This is what the cost of living crisis actually is. Beneath the headlines about energy bills and supermarket prices, it's something simpler and more permanent. It's a slow motion collision of stagnant productivity, restricted housing supply, and since 2022, mortgage rates that haven't been this punishing in a generation. Wages are flat, rents are climbing, mortgages are biting, and houses, they're out of reach for almost anyone under 35 without any sort of family money. The country has been poorer than its own trendline for so long that it's almost forgotten what richer would have felt like. So why? Well, the mechanism itself isn't a mystery. British workers produce less per hour than their American or German counterparts because British firms for decades have invested less in the tools that make their work productive. And that traces back to 2 specific policy choices, both made well before Starmer was even in the front bench politics. The first was austerity. After 2010, the Cameron government took a hatchet to public investment, skills, research, infrastructure. The Department for Business, Innovation and Skills alone had lost 18% of its real-term budgets in 5 years. Money the country still hasn't put back yet. The second, of course, was Brexit. Most serious economists now put the cost at 6 to 8% of GDP per capita. Austerity was sold as the medicine that would cure the deficit, and technically, briefly, you could say it did. But then the pandemic happened. Then Russia invaded Ukraine, and decades of saving was gone in 18 months. The country crawled out the other side with public debt near 94% of GDP, the highest borrowing costs in the OECD, and roughly 8% of every pound of government revenue swallowed by debt interest before a single nurse gets paid, a single home gets built, or a single mortgage rate ever gets brought down. That's the inheritance. And here's the trap inside it. To fix public services, the government has to grow the economy. To grow the economy, it has to invest. To invest, it needs fiscal room. And right now, there is no fiscal room. The arithmetic hasn't closed for any government of any colour since 2010. The political system that might once have absorbed all this pressure has frankly shattered. Run a general election tomorrow and the polling models say nobody wins a majority. The most likely outcome is a reform-led minority government. The second most likely is a Labour minority. The orderly two-part seesaw most British people grew up with is now gone, and neither alternative offers any kind of fiscal comfort. Reform's 2024 platform proposed about £90 billion of unfunded tax cuts. The Institute of Fiscal Studies looked at the spending reductions Reform claimed would pay for them and called the maths fanciful, because Liz Truss tried a smaller version of this exact idea in 2022. The bond market gave its verdict in 72 hours. She was out of Downing Street in 49 days. And mortgage rates, 3 years on, still haven't fully come down from the spike that she once triggered. The Greens, on the other pole, want to go the opposite direction. About 170 billion of annual tax rises. Roughly half of that depends on carbon tax, whose own design, almost by intent, would erode its own tax base over time. Their leader has, in public interviews, struggled to distinguish the deficit from the national debt and has gestured approvingly towards modern monetary theory. That's the doctrine where central banks just finance government spending by creating reserves. The country that's leaned hardest on the approach in living memory is Argentina, which is not what you'd call a useful template. What Britain actually needs is boring, multi-parliament investment plans, planning reform, restraint, structural change, patient repair. What the system keeps producing is the opposite, a permanent search for shortcuts. Now, Starmer may not survive May's local election. Honestly, on some days it's hard to see how he gets to Christmas. But here's the part almost nobody in British politics wants to say out loud. If he falls, the next Prime Minister, whoever they are, whatever colour their rosette, inherits exactly the same country, the same broken trajectory, the same debt pile, the same fragmented parliament, the same housing market priced out of reach for a whole generation, the same mortgage rates, the same 31% gap between what Britain is and what it could have been. 6 Prime Ministers in 7 years, and the country is still where it was. Change on this evidence so far has not been a verb. It has been a slogan, passed from one administration to the next, slightly more tarnished each time it changes hands. And let's be honest, it will be passed again soon.
And it's significant. It's our first win of a borough in London. Labour are being wiped out. And what you're going to see later on today is the Conservative Party being wiped out